for history, we're gonna start with our maps. This map will again be on the quiz that we're gonna have on Wednesday. Our next quiz is on Wednesday, and this map will be on it. And then we have a test on Friday over the 4 men that were on the last 2 quizzes, the one you'll take on Wednesday and the one from last week. So this map will be on the quiz. It was on the last quiz you took. It's on the next quiz on Wednesday, and it's on the test on Friday. So that is how important this map is. Do you guys understand that? We're also going to keep reviewing this map. I am getting ready to turn this one over soon, so be paying attention. All right, let's start with the one that you need to know for the quiz.
Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware.
All right, let's see how you're going to do if I skip around.
Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Maine, Vermont.
Sorry, I was not pointing clearly. I was pointing to this one, Vermont.
Rhode Island, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maryland,
Not bad. All right.
Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Arkansas, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky.
By the way, I'm not the only one that teaches the Tennessee table with Kentucky Fried Chicken on it. Because I heard this little girl the other day in a little video doing these states, and she actually called this Kentucky Fried Chicken, Tennessee. So, yes, but Kentucky. And it does look like a piece of fried chicken, doesn't it? Sitting on a table. All right, let's do it again.
West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Florida.
Woo. You guys are making me proud. Yes.
Tennessee and Kentucky.
Oh, I did.
Tennessee, Kentucky.
Well, that was because I was talking about them at first. Okay, 119, and then we are going to review for the quiz that will be this Wednesday after we finish reading what we're going to read today. Other inventions. All right, so this is talking about Thomas Jefferson, and we just talked about that he didn't make it, but he designed a traveling writing desk. You need to be sitting up. This is not nap time. All right? And that traveling writing desk would have been used to write a very important document that we'll talk about later. All right, other inventions. Thomas Jefferson also invented many other important and interesting items. After the War for Independence was over, he served as ambassador to France. The letters he wrote to America were often opened and read by French postal workers. He drew plans for a wheel cipher which could code and decode secret messages. This invention helped to keep national secrets from other countries. Mr. Jefferson invented a swivel chair that turned without moving the legs of the chair. He also invented a dumbwaiter system, a special elevator which was able to move items to different floors of the house. So it's called a dumbwaiter, but it's really just a small elevator, not made for people, but made for items. For example, if the kitchen was down on the bottom floor, the person in the kitchen could make up a tray, stick it in this little tiny elevator, and they would make it go up to a different floor. And then somebody on the top floor could come to the little elevator and take it out and take it to one of the bedrooms on that floor. All right. Says dumbwaiters were most often used in the dining area to bring food from the kitchen to the table. Probably one of your favorite inventions of Thomas Jefferson would be the macaroni machine that formed noodles by pressing pasta dough through holes. Right? And they show macaroni in that picture there, don't they? And they show the swivel chair they talked about. At least I assume that would be the swivel chair.
No,
I
I
do not
think
know.
that's
It
the
just says
macaroni
Jefferson
machine.
Study.
Because on the top it says.
I'm talking about the picture of the chair, bud.
Oh.
So, but that just says it's Jefferson's Study of Monticello. It does not necessarily mean that's the swivel chair he made, does it? Could be though. Turn the page. All right, remember they talked about the cipher wheel? The next page is a picture of the wheel cipher. They were talking about where you would code and decode messages. Have you ever tried to make a code for fun to secretly talk to your friend? Codes have been used for a long time and sometimes for very serious reasons. In the 1790s, it was important for Thomas Jefferson to create a coding device that could not be figured out or cracked. His wheel cipher amazed everyone with its design. It was made of wood and had an axle with 36 wooden discs, each one holding the letters of the alphabet in a scrambled order. The sender of the message would use one wheel cipher and the receiver would use another. As an example, the sender would twist the disc to make a message, "We need help." Then he would look to another line of text which would say KG, VBRW, EBFZ. So does that even make sense? No. He would then send the receiver the line of scrambled letters, and the receiver could spell them out on his own cipher and begin looking for one line that made sense, the actual message. Although Mr. Jefferson didn't use the wheel cipher for long because it was not convenient, the U.S. Army used a device similar to his design for a long time. Mr. Jefferson probably did not realize how important his design was. Many years later, during World War II, the Marines needed a safer way to send secret radio messages. They discovered that the Navajo Indian language was spoken, not written. Only the Navajo knew this language. The Marines hired Navajo code talkers to use their language to send messages. The Navajo had to memorize over 400 terms and phrases before they went to battle because they didn't have military words in their language. The Navajo code talkers and their unbreakable code were a great help to America and the countries that helped them in the war. Like Thomas Jefferson's code, most people did not know anything about the Navajo code talkers until long after the war. We can be thankful that God used them to help guard our country's safety during a time of war. All right, so they're asking, can you crack this code? Now, we're not going to do it right now, and if you can crack this code, you're going to do it on a piece of paper, and we'll see if who can crack this code later. And you will give it to me, but don't tell each other. So it's secret, and we'll see who can crack this code.
There's no vowels.
That's because it's code. You have to figure out what the code is. All right? They tell you one letter. And if you can tell what they did to get from that one letter to the other letter, then you can figure out the code. Let's go on to the next page. We still need to finish reading. Meeting in Philadelphia. Do you guys know what it's going to be? We already talked about it. The Continental Congress. All right. The 13 American colonies were arguing with England. The colonists had been loyal Englishmen, but the King of England treated them unfairly now that they lived in America. He made them obey laws which even the people in England did not have to obey. What could the colonists do? You will remember that a few wise men from each colony should meet to talk over their problems. 2 important meetings were held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. These meetings were called the Continental Congress. Thomas Jefferson could not attend the first meeting because he was ill. He did attend the Second Continental Congress to represent the colony of Virginia. By this time, the American colonies were at war with England. Turn the page. Important decisions. At a meeting of the Second Continental Congress, the men talked and talked, but Thomas Jefferson mainly listened. Some of these men felt that Americans should fight only to make the King of England take away his unfair laws. These men still wanted the colonies to be a part of England. The rest of the men felt that the American colonies should be independent or free from England. Thomas Jefferson agreed. Finally, several important decisions were made. The colonies wanted their freedom. It meant there would be a war. And the men decided they would need to organize an army and choose a leader. Do you remember who they believed was the best man to lead the new American army? They chose
George
Declaration of Independence. The men of the Second Continental Congress knew that someone would have to write a very important document telling the world why the American colonies wanted their freedom from England. It would be a Declaration of Independence. Who would write this document? 5 men were chosen. Thomas Jefferson was one of them. They all knew that very few men could write as well as Mr. Jefferson, and so they gave the job to him. He went back to the room where he was staying, set up his traveling desk, and began to write the Declaration of Independence. Who was the other person that we learned that helped him? Grace? Benjamin Franklin. All right, the only thing we need to do now is just do the comprehension check, and that's where we'll stop. Thomas Jefferson served as an ambassador to the country of France. Very good. What was the name of the meeting in which men decided to be free from England? Page?
The Continental Congress.
Yeah, and specifically the Second Continental Congress. And Thomas Jefferson was chosen to write a document called the
Declaration of Independence.
that told the world why America wanted to be free from England. All right, let's review for the history quiz, which will be on Wednesday. We need to stop talking out. All right. All right, because of information gathered by this person, America won the battle, the final battle, which was the Battle of Yorktown, for the War for Independence. Who collected that information?
James Armstrong.
Not Armstrong. You keep saying his name is Armstrong. His name's not Armstrong. It's Armistead. We will learn about Armstrong later in the book, but he's an astronaut.
I know, it's the first astronaut to land on
Yeah,
the moon.
Armistead. Can you say his name right?
Armistead.
Armistead, not Armstrong. A person who collects information secretly from an enemy country. What do you call that?
Spies.
Spy. Very good. The Second Continental Congress decided that America would form an army, and who was going to be the leader of that army?
George Washington.
George Washington. During the War for Independence, who gathered secret information about the British troops? Zeke?
James Armistead.
Yes, James Armistead again. Who was the author of the Declaration of Independence? Abby?
I can't remember.
What?
I can't remember.
Were you paying attention today? Because we read about it today. Jonathan?
Jefferson Thomas.
What?
Oh, Thomas Jefferson.
Yes, Thomas Jefferson, the person we were reading about today. We just read about how he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, I don't think we've read this part yet, but we sort of did, because it was terms to remember. Thomas Jefferson was the founder and architect of the University of, who can remember? The University of,
France.
no,
Virginia.
University of Virginia.
I knew it.
We haven't actually read that part again, we did read it as a term to remember, the University of Virginia. This is another thing we haven't actually read yet. The Declaration of Independence states that men have the right to life, blank, and the pursuit of happiness. Who knows? Life,
Liberty.
liberty. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What is a person who draws plans for a building called? Paige? She thought she knew it, now she can't. I'm not sure. Abby? Architect. This is another thing we haven't actually read yet. When Thomas Jefferson became president, he purchased this land from France that doubled the size of the United States. Do you remember the name of that? That was also a term to remember, but we haven't read it yet. It's one of the states we've been learning here, the blank territory.
I just forgot it.
Did Jonathan?
Florida.
No.
South Carolina.
Zeke?
West Virginia.
No.
Louisiana.
Yeah, it's called the Louisiana Territory, but guys, when they're talking about the Louisiana Territory, they're not just talking about the state of Louisiana.
Texas.
It was a big portion of the United States. Alright, it was a big portion that we were buying from France. Alright, so it started here and it just kept going that way. I'll have to look it up sometime and show you the whole portion that was considered the Louisiana Territory. And who was the third president of the United States? Olivia?
Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. Third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson. And then these states will also be on that quiz on Wednesday.